2022 and welcome to CoStar. My name's Laura Partridge, I'm the Strategic Lead at the AHRC, working on the CoStar programme for the last year. Some of you might remember about a year ago, Andrew, Chitty and I opened and announced the first funding call for CoStar at Cardiff at last year's Beyond. So it's a real pleasure and slightly poetic to be back here just over a year later launching the programme. You're going to hear from some great speakers today. We've got some keynotes, we've got a panel discussion, and of course you'll get to meet the CoStar labs themselves and the entire national network, hopefully. But first of all, to open proceedings, I'm very pleased to welcome the AHRC's Executive Chair, Professor Christopher Smith.
Minister, colleagues, good morning everybody. It's absolutely wonderful to be here for Beyond and to feel the excitement that is really surrounding the creative industries today. It's 25 years since another Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, Chris Smith, published the Creative Industries Mapping document outlining a policy built around the idea of moving from arts as a marker of a civilized society to creativity as an economic driver, and set up a task force which revealed the power of the creative industries in our economy. It's also 25 years since the Arts and Humanities Research Board came into being, the predecessor of AHRC. For the first time, research in the arts and humanities left the remit of the British Academy and stretched out to encompass art, design and technology, as was asked for in the Deering report. And now here we are, 25 years of the creative industries as we know it, 25 years of the AHRC as we now know it, sitting here in a royal institution founded to be a public institution for diffusing the knowledge and facilitating the general introduction of useful mechanical inventions and improvements, and for the teaching of courses of philosophical lectures and experiments, the application of science to the common purposes of life. That, I think, is what CoStar is partly about, is the application of science to the common purposes of life, and the creative industries is our national conversation. How appropriate a conjunction this is, 2 quarter centuries. Here we are to celebrate the formal launch of AHRC's first infrastructure, our first major investment in a new laboratory for the creative industries, CoStar. And it's an extraordinary moment for us. At £75.6 million, this is the largest investment that the Arts Humanities Research Council has ever made. It is the largest grant we have ever offered. It is the largest public investment that UKRI, UK Research and Innovation, our overarching organisation, has ever made in the creative industries. It is the largest initiative that DCIT and DCMS have ever seen in this area, and thank you enormously to the government for their support for this. But at its heart, it is a simple idea rooted in what AHRC stands for. Many think that arts and humanities is about the core humanities, history, philosophy, and so forth. And we are. But from our foundation, we're about a lot more. Inside UKRI, it is possible for us now to fulfill the real potential of arts and humanities as they change and transform to meet and shape the 21st century. Everything humans have ever thought, said, designed, or performed falls into the remit of arts and humanities. We study what it is to be human and the conditions that allow us to falter or flourish. All human history is in our scope, and so are the challenges of the present and the possibilities for the future. The science that is celebrated here in this building is part of our human story. The AI revolution we are witnessing was created by humans and is already part of our humanity. It is already part of our history, as all science becomes almost instantly. And all science comes from and contributes to our capacity to imagine a different world. Arts and humanities is anything but abstract. We create innovations as powerful as any other discipline. It is our disciplines, our intellectual insight that gave rise to the intellectual freedom that made the Industrial Revolution possible 200 odd years ago. As we in AHRC have embraced practice and design, we have become the intellectual space in which the creative industries have grown and flourished. The recent Council for Science and Technology letter to the Prime Minister makes the case powerfully that the creative industries are generating technological advances as designers and those in the creative and performing arts work together to create highly innovative new products, experiences, and services. In areas such as design-led engineering, conservation, heritage science, R&D is focused on engineering, physics, and chemistry, but crucially combined with specialist knowledge in areas of the arts and humanities such as design and history. And here CoStar is doing precisely that. But in creative industries, the innovation is often not located in major companies, but in tiny SMEs. It's not in the traditional behemoths of engineering labs, but in small design studios all across the UK. It still needs to be nurtured and supported, and in that lies the genius of CoStar. CoStar is an infrastructure investment which will establish a network of creative R&D labs for the screen and performance sectors, but it is specifically designed to allow access for SMEs to technology which is currently beyond their reach, and to conduct horizon scanning to protect the future health of a sector where the UK is an acknowledged leader. AHRC is committed to opening the most sophisticated technology to the most innovative parts of our creative economy through the proven anchorage of universities. And we've designed CoStar to translate research in virtual screen production and take it right through our technology readiness levels to deliver economic benefit across the country. This is the innovation which comes from arts and humanities, the combination of technological development and economic benefit, rooted by design in place and intentionally supporting everyone from the small and micro enterprise in Belfast or Dundee to the great studios of the world. In the course of this morning, you will hear about the programme and the National Lab led by Royal Holloway University of London and the 3 network labs in the University of York, Abertay University and Ulster University, as well as the Insight and Foresight Lab. And you'll also hear about the many, many partners who have come together to make this possible right across the UK. Major companies and investors such as BT, smaller investors and companies at the cutting edge of innovation. All of these partners have come together to do extraordinary things, including to almost match the public R&I investment already in CoStar. And that's an extraordinary achievement, and I want to pay tribute to everybody who's contributed to that. But we haven't finished yet. I'm delighted to say that Royal Holloway has won a grant to deliver doctoral training, which will run alongside CoStar to build the advanced skills we need to grow R&I in the creative industries. One of 3 such centres in the largest investment in creative industries doctoral training we have ever made in UKRI, and running alongside a competition just announced by AHRC. I'm also able to announce that we will open the first phase of our new Creative Industries Clusters programme by the beginning of next year. A long journey, hugely supported by our government colleagues. Immense thanks. It's no surprise that the brilliant investment model which is the clusters has led to such success in CoStar. All the clusters, who we'll hear later today, have gone on to gain extra support from UKRI, including through CoStar. It's now urgent that we extend and expand this programme to new parts of the country so we can build the capacity right across the UK. And that is what the second phase of clusters will do. I'm sure we'll hear in a moment more about the creative industry sector vision led by colleagues in DCMS and by Sir Peter Bazalgette, which focuses on skills, growth and impact. Here this morning, we are seeing the exemplification of what that vision set out, driven by AHRC through UKRI. CoStar will be at the heart of investment for economic growth through innovation, supporting skills from schools to the cutting edge of technology and impacting on lives across the country and into policy making at the heart of government. Before I close, I just want to offer a far too brief thanks than is deserved to those who have made this possible. To all of those who have worked so hard to lead the CoStar bids, huge congratulations and thanks. Your teamwork is and will be key to our success. I know that every one of you is now working especially hard to ensure that all the teams will reflect right through their own composition and drive in their activity the diversity of our creative industries, and that alongside the brilliant science, there will be a genuinely inclusive vision for CoStar. Thank you too for all the partners who have come together to support us and build that co-investment from the very start. The team who have delivered CoStar for AHRC has been absolutely amazing. Tao Chang, Joe Dunster, Alan Sudlow, Stella Power, Laura Partridge, Hannah Farag, Heather Hutchinson, Alistair Oakley, Hannah Chalklin, Fee Waters, Ray Mather, many others across UKRI and DCIT and DCMS, the advisory board who has helped us, Sarah Ellis, who led the amazing panel which brought together the results for CoStar, and of course, Andrew Chitty, who has led us inimitably. Thank you to you all. CoStar has happened because we won, collectively, all of us, we won the confidence of government to invest in the creative industries as a core part of our economic growth. Recognised by the Chancellor of the Exchequer, who I think might have a few other things to say later today. But we need to do more. We need to continue to make the case through data to support government to make the internal case for investment. And we need that investment to grow the creative industries, as the sector vision says, by an extra £50 billion while creating 1 million extra jobs by 2030. And those jobs must be right across the UK and supporting every part of our society. This must be a beginning. It's a spark. It's a spark that lights our new revolution in knowledge and innovation, just as Faraday's spark lit the world 200 years ago. And I'm delighted, therefore, now to pass to a great supporter of the creative industries and of our work here today, who will reflect, I'm sure, on that political commitment and will. The Right Honourable Sir John Whittingdale OBE MP, Minister of State for Media, Tourism and Creative Industries, who tells me he is normally accompanied to stage with rock music, but I'm not sure what we've got planned for him today. John.
Thank you, Christopher, and good morning, everybody. It's a real pleasure for me to be able to join you at the start of today's CoStar launch event. It represents the cutting edge of where technology and creativity come together. And as Christopher introduced me, I am the Minister currently for Creative Industries in DCMS, but I am also a Minister in the Department of Science, Innovation and Technology. And so this represents both parts of my responsibilities coming together to drive forward our economy and our society. And I've no doubt that you will have a fascinating day hearing from the CoStar network, labs, industry experts, and perhaps getting a glimpse of what lies ahead in the years to come. I want to begin by underlining the government's commitment to the continued and sustained success of our creative industries. If you've heard me or the Secretary of State or indeed the Chancellor speak recently, you will know that to be the case. And as Christopher has described, in June we published the Creative Industries Sector Vision. And we are now working across government and industry to deliver on its objectives. That vision is about helping the UK creative sectors go from strength to strength, building on our status as a world-class creative nation and delivering on our even greater potential. So by 2030, we want to grow creative clusters across the UK, adding £50 billion to our gross value added. To build a highly skilled, productive and inclusive workforce for the future, supporting 1 million more jobs across the UK, and maximising the positive impact that the creative industries have on individuals and communities, the environment, and indeed the UK's global standing. So CoStar is a big part of helping us to achieve these ambitions, with £63 million of new industry co-investment on top of the £75 million of government funding to build 4 new screen R&D labs across the UK. As you've heard, the CoStar network will consist of a national lab and experimental studio fitted with real-time digital technologies based in Buckinghamshire. As well as that, there will be 3 network labs across the UK based in Wakefield, Dundee and Belfast, and an Insight and Foresight unit, the IFU, run out of Goldsmiths in collaboration with the British Film Institute. So CoStar will underpin the UK's future competitiveness across our leading screen and performance industries. And with the national lab and hubs across the UK, CoStar will create one of the largest networked virtual production facilities in Europe. The programme will bring the technologies that we've seen in things like ABBA Voyage and The Mandalorian, as well as the next stages of development which are already underway, to a wider range of creative companies. The National Lab is located amongst the highest concentration of creative industries in the UK. And crucially, it is also accessible UK-wide and has a commitment to ensuring that 45% of beneficiaries are based outside of the South East. This investment in research and development by CoStar for the development labs will put the whole of the UK at the forefront of innovation across the creative industries. From virtual production in live performances in Yorkshire to world-class computer games R&D at Abertay University and advanced technology film production at Studio Ulster. Through CoStar, large production companies will be more able to introduce new technologies and processes. Screen agencies will find it easier to conduct R&D in support of attracting foreign direct investment in major projects. Independent film and TV producers, theatre companies, and other SMEs will receive funding to access facilities at below market rates to explore virtual production techniques that are currently inaccessible. And creative technology startups, scale-ups, and spin-outs will be able to establish themselves around the 4 CoStar labs, knowing that they will be able to access the facilities for large-scale projects on a shared basis without needing to invest in their own facilities at an early stage. This is important and shows how the government is backing our creative industries to maximise their potential and to encourage further private investment. The Council of Science and Technology produced a report which was submitted to the Prime Minister last month, which underlined the potential of the creative industries as an R&D sector. It concluded that investment in R&D is crucial to the future success of the UK's creative businesses and to our wider creative economy. I absolutely believe this to be the case, and that's why I'm so pleased to be able to be here today. Because CoStar will support the growth of our creative industries, our first goal in the creative industries sector vision. But CoStar will do more than this, and actually it will contribute to all 3 of the goals which are set out in the sector vision. It will support skills, our second goal. So working with industry, we want to nurture the creative workforce of the future. And just last week, we had Discover Creative Careers Week which is an initiative funded by DCMS to inspire the next generation to consider career opportunities in the creative industries. And I was able to go and join a class taking part in that program and hear from some of the 10 to 12-year-olds about their creative ideas around designing future games. And the excitement in that room was absolutely striking. But the program will also support the sector's wider impact, our third goal. And CoStar has an important focus on improving environmental sustainability and diversity across the UK sector. And the Council of Science and Technology report noted that R&D in the creative industries has produced spillover benefits in diverse areas such as defence, agriculture, healthcare, and education. And CoStar will benefit us in ways that today we cannot yet envisage. And I know that you will share my fascination at seeing where it will take us. I'd like to end with a reflection on another event I attended with the creative industries. So last week, the Secretary of State hosted the We Create conference at Aviva Studios in Manchester, which I was able to attend, and Christopher was there as well. And at that conference, we met with businesses in the creative industries with more than 130 cultural and creative businesses attending the conference to celebrate the success of those industries across the north of England and to discuss how government and the sectors can work together to maximise their potential even further. At the conference, the government announced that we are doubling the number of areas in the Create Growth programme, with almost £11 million of additional funding to provide targeted support to businesses so that they can access private investment and scale up. And we launched the £5 million Supporting Grassroots Music Fund to ensure support for the lifeblood of our world-leading music sector. This all taken together again shows our commitment to supporting creative industries. And as Christopher referred to, today is the autumn statement, and I suspect we may be hearing again from the Chancellor about the importance which this government attaches to the creative sectors. But as well as these announcements, what particularly attracted me to this event was the sector coming together to talk about the opportunities in front of them and seeing yet again the passion, originality, and innovative spirit that drives them all. We are extraordinarily good at this stuff, and CoStar will help us, government, academia, and industry working together to take it to new heights. I'd like to thank the AHRC for hosting this event, for all the work that you have done to get us here, and indeed for the exciting work which lies ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. So as we've heard, I'm going to do a bit of housekeeping. I'm going to try an even better Andrew Chitty's flight attendant impression yesterday and replicate it. Can I suggest if people want to leave during the rest of this for any reason or take a comfort break, could you leave from the side doors? We're filming today, so hello as well to our audience watching on the live stream. So as you've just heard, the labs will be distributed nationally, and I guess you might want to know a little bit more about them. So what will they offer, what will they provide, and how can you engage with them? We're going to present in a moment the first two premiere of the first two of 5 short films produced by the labs themselves. In a moment, we'll take a little visual journey to Northern Ireland to meet the CoStar Screen Lab in Belfast. But before we do that, let's meet the National Lab.
Our mission at the National Lab is to enable researchers and creative companies to dream together and build the exciting technologies of tomorrow.
The CoStar National Lab, and indeed the whole wider CoStar network, will ultimately act as a centre of gravity for creative, collaborative research and development in the UK.
It's vital for the National Lab to succeed that we're located in one of the world's highest concentrations of creative industries. We'll be accessible across all 4 corners of the United Kingdom. We'll be running programs that reach across the UK and making a cloud-based set of facilities available for companies wherever they are.
In this partnership, we bring the business expertise, the commercialization aspect. On the other side, we get the immense research power that allows us to speculate on what the new scientific development can be in research for the creative industries. So we can really look at what are the long-term innovations that will make the difference.
A big challenge facing UK companies is securing the capital needed to unlock growth. That will be a key focus for us and will lead to greater sustainability within the UK creative technology sector.
In the first year, we need to really take the time to listen to the screen and performance communities and understand what will help us make a space and a programme of activity around it that will not just meet an immediate need, but will be really forward-thinking and help meet the challenges of the next 5+ years.
We'll have been a success when we see the companies and partners that we've supported go on to embed inclusive and sustainable practices within their innovation processes and within their businesses.
This has never been done before. We're bringing together world-class researchers from the universities of Surrey, Abertay and Royal Holloway and putting them at the service of the creative sector to help them innovate and grow. We're mixing that together with the world's #1 film school in the National Film and Television School, and with our partnerships with BT, The Skies, Surrey County Council and Pinewood Studios, we're going to place R&D at the heart of storytelling and storytelling at the heart of R&D.
The mission for the CoStar Screen Lab in Northern Ireland is to really build and level up the screen industries here. We've always punched above our weight in Northern Ireland in some incredible shows and some incredible opportunities for working in the film and television industry here. But we know we need to future-proof this, we know we need to be highly competitive, and we also know that we need to develop our Indigenous crews, our Indigenous companies. Over the next year, there are 3 targets for us. One is to get our facility open. It's currently under construction in the harbour and will open in summer of 2024, building a world-class capability here in Northern Ireland. 2 is building the capability of our research team, building in our team and building the capability of our local crews to be able to use, access and unlock all of this technology. Thirdly, we look forward to working with the National CoStar Lab and our colleagues across the broader network.
I'm Richard Williams, Chief Executive of Northern Ireland Screen. We're the agency for the screen industries here in Northern Ireland, working on everything from inward investing, large projects attached to the film studios here, all the way through TV drama, independent film, factual, entertainment television, and games. So Northern Ireland Screen is heavily involved in skills development, and we're delighted that Ulster University has become probably really our primary partner in terms of that development. Globally, the screen industry has a number of very significant challenges. Digital disruption, digital transformation is a huge one. So from a Northern Ireland perspective, the same as anywhere in the world, if we want to stay competitive in this space, we have to embrace digital technologies. And the partnership that we have with Ulster University in terms of Studio Ulster and through CoStar gives us that opportunity to ensure that we are future-proofing our industry. Studio Ulster is going to be one of the most significant commercial virtual production facilities in Europe. The ambition for Studio Ulster is that it functions as an R&D and a skills development facility, as well as being an exclusively industry-facing facility. CoStar is what facilitates that.
We have a credible team available at Ulster University, and now we have the opportunity to broaden that team across the Studio Ulster complex as it comes online in 2024. We are looking forward to getting in on the ground to develop the capabilities here in the creative technology sector across Northern Ireland.
So hopefully you see that one of the most exciting things about CoStar is the collaboration between industry and universities. So in fact, the National Lab and the 3 network labs are co-located with industry in production studios. So they're located with industry, they're visible to industry and accessible by industry. So we're very delighted to have our keynote speaker here today to talk about what he thinks CoStar can do for the creative economy. He is a man of many hats. He's a serial entrepreneur, a game developer, apparently also a basketball player, I'm told, and he's here today to give our keynote speech. Please welcome Chris van der Kuyl.
Thank you, Laura. Good morning, everyone. Great to be here. I do feel that I should have some pyrotechnics or something up. You know, it's kind of amazing being in somewhere that you've watched so many Christmas lectures from. The title you've got up on the screen in front of you obviously refers to that brilliant Scottish pop song by Orange Juice, but it's also my kind of call out to everybody here in terms of, and sorry Chris, all the proposals that have been put in for this, rip them up and think again and start again. And I know that's the last thing you need to hear, having spent years sweating over every word of every proposal. But I often start these speeches with this following phrase, and I keep reflecting, is it, should I stop saying this? But every time I think about it, I think, no, it's more relevant than ever before. And it's the fact that, we're living in the time of the fastest change and the most dynamic change in human history. Yet, it's the slowest today that it will ever be again. And, in the past 40 or 50 years, that technological change has been driven by, the Moore's Law. Gordon Moore, one of the founders of Intel, saying that, every 18 months, the density of silicon would effectively double on a chip, and the price would correspondingly reduce for compute power. He thought that would be something that would project, in the 1950s or 60s for maybe the next decade. It's never stopped. And those kind of crazy exponential curves lead to incredible events in human history, faster than we believe they can happen. And that has happened. And that phrase, this is the fastest period of change in human history, obviously has been put into even more context of the ridiculous disruption that we've all lived through over the past few years, which almost accelerated it again, so it's ever more true. But whilst all of us absolutely not just hope, but believe and beg and pray that we never go back to the disruption that we went through in 2020, 2021, it has fired a starting pistol for a whole load of things to change. The first revolution that I've lived through in my life, and there are three that I'm going to talk about today, is the microcomputer revolution. The early 1980s when the IBM PC arrived, and for those of us from Dundee, the machine on the other side, the Sinclair ZX Spectrum, heralded the real democratization of computing technology into the hands of everyone. And when I say for those of us in Dundee, those that aren't from Dundee in this audience possibly don't realise that Sir Clive Sinclair, when he sat in Cambridge and came up with the idea of the Spectrum, or the ZX80 and 81 before it, in that brilliant British way of everybody, the Germans over-engineered their systems. The Americans, it had to be big and feel like a muscle car. We went, how cheaply can we create a piece of technology that feels like a piece of dead flesh and gives future programmers RSI and arthritis in equal measure. But it was designed in a shed, and obviously, it came hand in hand with the BBC Micro at the time, an incredible national initiative between the BBC and Acorn, which ultimately begat ARM, and it powers pretty much every mobile phone and RISC processor in the world today. But back to the Spectrum. The Spectrum is really dear to our hearts in Dundee because it was manufactured in Dundee, and maybe a precursor to having a national lab and then going out to wider parts of the UK. Sir Clive had these machines manufactured by Timex in Dundee. So the short version of the story is these things were around about £199 everywhere else in the UK. In Dundee, if you knew the right guy in stores in Timex, you could procure one that had been damaged inadvertently on the production line for about £10 in a packet of Embassy Regal. So I'm not suggesting that any form of criminal activity, because there was none, these were written off, can create an industry, but it's no coincidence that Dundee has more game developers per head of population than anywhere else in the world. So that revolution you know, has changed the way we live forever. You know, the idea, I mean, when Bill Gates said Microsoft's mission was to put a computer on every desktop, he was laughed at. You know, why would everyone need a computer? You know, how could we afford to put a computer on everyone's desktop? Today, that's clearly ludicrous and completely transformed the way everyone works, every single person. The next revolution was in the mid-1990s when we started to effectively connect. You know, whether you want to call it the internet or the World Wide Web, it was the confluence of those technologies again being democratized to the mass population. You know, the technology to connect network computers, to have email, had been in academia for years. And again, people ask, why would normal people, sorry to anybody in academia, but why would non-academics and you know, as we all probably all know, the defense sector in the US, you know, was one of the key proponents of internet technology, very resilient technology. Why would we ever need that? That seems like a crazy idea. We'd never do it. Well, you know, I don't need to tell you spend any of my time telling you how that has disrupted the world we live in today, how it's almost impossible for us to think about, you know, for those that were born after the internet became a mass market item, how did you live before that? How did you live without being able to order, to connect? Yet that revolution was an interesting one because many people saw it. Many people who'd benefited, myself included, from access to high-performance networks and high-performance computing in, let's say, a university setting or a business setting, knew that the future that could deliver to everyone, to the creative industries almost especially, was going to herald a complete new way of working, a new way of collaborating, a new way of creating. Yet if you remember and you were around then, we had the dot-com bubble that burst in 1999. You know, everyone thought this was the new gold rush, but people lost faith in it. People lost faith because crazy ideas, and some of them were particularly crazy, you know, investment ideas that had billions put into them collapsed overnight, and people thought that was it. Now, if you think about that time, if you think about looking back at the millennium, and many very sensible business people were saying, well, you know, that was never going to change the world. We knew that was never going to change the world. And then you watched Amazon become what Amazon has become. You watched Apple reinvent itself around connected devices. You watched companies which didn't exist, you know, then like Facebook. You know, Google was around. You know, Google, as many people may know, started off as a business facing organization that was going to build search engines inside companies because that's what people would need. Nobody foresaw what was to come, other than a few visionaries that believed, and they were right. So we now sit at the dawn of the third revolution. And interestingly, for those of us that come from a computer science background, the technology is not new. Everyone thinks it is, but it's not. It's been here for a long time. The difference is it's becoming useful. Now, this is what people think the AI revolution is going to look like. People think we're all going to lose our jobs to AI. We're not going to lose our jobs to AI. We will lose our jobs to people who use AI effectively. And using technology effectively has always been the answer. You know, when you can go back and go back another century. You know, imagine turning around to a Royal Institution lecture hall full of coach and horse drivers and telling them that, you know, the lorry's not going to replace your job. People who can drive lorries will replace your job. It's pretty obvious, pretty sensible, not controversial in the least. So saying what I just said, saying that you won't lose your jobs to AI, you'll lose your jobs to people who use AI effectively, is also not controversial. It might be quite scary for people who haven't embraced it and thought, my God, AI's come, what do I do? How do I turn to face into this? Well, the answer is I don't really know. I don't know every single journey that's in this room, every single person that's in this room, but I do know that there will be an impact. There will be a way to take this technology, turn it into something that affects your daily life in a really positive way, reinvents you, takes the uniqueness of what you are and what you can do, and empowers it in ways that have never been able to be done before. Think about all those technologies I've mentioned and think about how they've taken people on those journeys in their own context, whether it be automotive revolution, whether it be the microcomputer, whether it be the internet. They have transformed opportunities for probably every single person in the world and in this room. And it's about to happen again. You know, we lived through, I do as a technologist laugh about it when it happens. You know, as soon as the whole kind of NFT nonsense began and everybody's shouting about Web3, I'm like, okay, there's good things in there, some of the blockchain stuff, but this isn't a revolution. It's just a bit of an application, and it's yet another Ponzi scheme that everybody's trying to get everyone to buy into. This is not. These technologies that power AI have been around for decades. You know, University of Edinburgh celebrated its 60th, or is celebrating its 60th anniversary as an AI research-focused institute in informatics this year. 60 years. I think it's like second oldest in the world. But most of the algorithms that power everything you're hearing, from large language learning models to image creation, have been around for decades. There just wasn't enough compute power to make them useful or affordable. You know, we studied them in the 1980s, 1990s. And it was that classic academic thing of, or scientific thing of, we could see the theory and we could see what it could create. We just couldn't show anybody what it could create because we didn't have the tools yet. Moore's law, as I mentioned at the start, has made that happen at an extraordinary speed. And that extraordinary speed is going to exponentially continue to where, you know, the classic phrase, you know, amazing technology it shouldn't be discernible from magic. You know, AI does that to you. You know, when you see DALL-E or Midjourney create an image from a rough set of words, it blows your mind. It completely blows your mind. So, the context of this to CoStar, my original title, Rip It Up and Start Again. Some of you may already be there. Some of you may already be creating this environment of innovation without bounds that will be inclusive to everyone with ideas and every piece of technology that's yet to come. Some of you may have decided the direction and focus, and that's good, except for me, the purpose of innovation funding is to create what we can't quite comprehend can be created today. And I mean, I reflect on, you know, my first day at university, sitting in a lecture hall somewhat like this with 300 or 400 other computer science undergraduates, and being told by the head of department at Edinburgh that, you know, with copious notes being taken, every word he said is obviously the word of God in Edinburgh informatics. So I better pay attention to everything. And he said something pretty profound. He said, everything we're going to teach you in the next 4 years will be completely obsolete by the time you graduate. You know, like, okay, time to leave. What's the point in doing this? And he's, you know, we are not here to teach you to repeat what we read or what you read. We're here to teach you how to think in a fast evolve. And they saw it. You know, this was, for me, it was 1987. And in 1987, the world of computing understood how this revolution was working. I think they predicted it was going to stop by the millennium at that point, and obviously it's not, and it's unlikely ever to stop with the arrival of sort of quantum computing, biological computing, these technologies which only exist sometimes in people's mind's eye at the moment. They will come, they will be here, and they will revolutionize the way we act and work and create. And that's the context in which you're all starting out in this CoStar journey. Being part of the Realtime lab up in Dundee, we are incredibly excited to see where this journey takes us. You know, we know already that in virtual production, the games industry powers the technology of most of the engines that sit behind it. But that, again, is only scratching at the surface. You know, we can create at a rate now in a world that is mind-blowing. But what is interesting, and where I really want to take my remarks to conclusion, are don't worry about the impact of AI, because you're worrying about something that is here and it is going to happen and is unstoppable. Do focus on it. Do absolutely think and believe the unthinkable as to what this can probably become, because it probably will become what we can't quite believe is possible today. But settle into the fact that every time new technology appears, in my view, and I started life as a musician, and well, I suppose I still am a musician and still feel that's kind of the heart of much of the drive for me to be creative with technology, is it's the creative brains, however they manifest themselves, that work out ways to apply this technology to where administration, business, process-driven organizations can't possibly think, because that's not how they think. Creativity is at the heart of every new piece of innovation. So it's why we oftentimes venerate, people like Steve Jobs, people like, Elon Musk. They're not traditional creatives in the way that we would consider them, but they are. They think the unthinkable. They stick themselves out there and try things that no one else would try. And when they do it initially, people think they're idiots. People call them idiots. People sack them from jobs. But ultimately, they become the prophets of where things go to. So for me, if you think of that in the context of where we sit today and where we embark on this journey, I go and look at social media today and I despair. I do despair. I despair that we've let, in the games industry, the free-to-play industry be driven by performance metrics. So those of you who looked at these free-to-play games, they're pretty heinous a lot of the time. They're solely designed to keep your attention focused, like a lab rat with Pavlovian responses, and something that pretends to be creative ultimately is utterly genius at burning your time and giving you no creative satisfaction. The good news about that is people will tire of that. Some people, unfortunately, these algorithms are so good, effectively become addicted to them, and we need to, that's something we all need to concern ourselves with. And the same's happened it's moved from free-to-play gaming to a system like TikTok today, I think is right at the heart of a reduction in consumption of broader creative media. Because people think, oh, I think I'm going to play a new game. Oh, let me just see what's on TikTok. 2.5 hours later, their thumb's broken, and they're still looking at TikTok. The great news is, if we, the creative industries, take back, not control of people's lives, but effectively control of the technology and start to apply it in ways that people can't quite comprehend, and give them democratized access to create their own content, to use the technologies that we develop in CoStar to begin their own journeys, we can't possibly imagine how good that's going to get. Nobody saw what the computer games industry would become when Clive Sinclair et al. Released these little computers back in the 1980s. It's become the world's biggest entertainment industry. 180 billion this year and counting, bigger than every other creative industry combined. It's mind-blowing. I believe the technologies that you're going out to look at to apply into the screen industries will have the same impact. We're going to give, anybody that's used a 360 camera, used the Insta software, can see just how powerful the creative tools that are being democratized today are. We're only scratching the surface. And it will be the creatives amongst us that benefit. It will be us who harness the power of this technology to create experiences and delight people around the globe. And no one that wants to work will not be able to work. People can make choices, it's up to them. We've seen people during the past few years, disappear at the corners and decide that this isn't where they want to be. I think for those of us that love creating, we want to get out and share, we want to get out and discover new experiences. And there's never been a time like this. There's never been a time in human history before where we can do what we can achieve in our own pockets, in our own bedrooms, communicate globally. There are no barriers to entry on this. And I think the 4 labs, this national project that we're starting on, is so crucial, because for the future of the UK is as a knowledge-based creative economy. And the only thing that needs, the only natural resource that needs, is creative brain power. And we've got it. We've traditionally been brilliant in all the areas that we've focused on in creating that. And what I want to see out of this is a pathway to exponentially grow that. Because if we don't, if we think out of the 60 plus million, 70 million, wherever our population gets to, that we can rely on sort of traditional old school jobs that were driven by last century's economy, the UK doesn't have much of a future. If it bets hard and heavy on the knowledge industries, on the creative industries as being the future, this is a place I want to live. This is going to be one of the most exciting places in the world, and that's a revolution I want to be part of. So good luck, everyone. Thank you for giving me this time today. I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Chris. So, speaking of amazing places in the world, let's find out about 2 more of the labs, starting with Chris's in Dundee.
CoStar Realtime Lab brings together world-leading R&D expertise from Alberta University in games design and development and Edinburgh University in the use of AI. We'll work together with UK games, film and animation industries to drive innovation in the integration of real-time technologies and artificial intelligence into next-generation production. We're currently working with multinational technology vendors. Working with the other network labs, Realtime Lab will help to build a national network of innovators, producers and creatives that will help to make the UK the global destination for next generation production.
CoStar Realtime Lab is an incredibly exciting project to be involved in. The idea that the confluence of the latest technology in video games, the latest technology in the film and television industry coming together right here in Dundee, and us being able to work in collaboration with AHRC on some incredibly exciting new technologies for use in that, I couldn't be more excited, to be honest.
Similar facilities at Edinburgh College of Art will offer companies access to AI expertise in development of new tools and processes that embed artificial intelligence in production of next generation content. The facilities and the expertise will drive R&D-led innovation into our commercialisation pipeline, which will be managed by Interface, who operate Scotland's University Innovation Scheme, and Codebase, who operate TechScaler, a technology accelerator on behalf of the Scottish Government.
I've been in and around the games industry for the past 25 years, and watching games technology progress to where it's now being used as an integral part of major feature film production has been mind-blowing. So to actually see that come on site here with CoStar Realtime Lab is incredible, and it's only the beginning. You know, I think the next decade of work, which is why this research project is perfectly positioned, it's going to become even more important for producing some of the world's greatest content.
I'm Professor Johnny Freeman. I'm Director of the CoStar Foresight Lab based here at Goldsmiths, University of London. The Foresight Lab partnership is fantastic. We've got Goldsmiths, Loughborough University and Edinburgh University alongside BFI.
I'm Rishi Coupland from the BFI. We collect data and evidence related to all of the screen sectors, so film, TV, video games and immersive, that inform the policies of today.
We've got Olsberg SPI tracking the international market. We've got Arup and Julie's Bicycle with a forensic focus on carbon impacts of virtual production technologies. We've got I2 Media Research focused on the audience dimension, and we've got Station 12 focused on how to invest to support the sector.
I'm Graham Hitchin. I lead the policy unit at Loughborough University. We're going to be developing a whole range of policy-related publications. We're going to be commissioning research from a series of different partners, working with the Creative Industries Council, DCMS and DCIT, to try and influence thinking to support creative business growth.
My name is Melissa Terrace. I'm the Edinburgh lead for CoStar. The data-driven innovation that we do here will really help our industry partners plan ahead.
Technology is transforming production, and CoStar is providing the UK with the infrastructure to enable our screen sector to benefit from these changes. Why do we need a Foresight Lab? To understand the impacts of these new technologies on production in studios here in the UK and globally.
It's absolutely crucial that more than just paint a picture of the future, that we properly engage with industry. And one key way of doing that will be our Tracker Omnibus survey.
There's certain areas we really need to build on. including equality, diversity and inclusion in the film and TV and games areas. We also need to be looking at the carbon footprint, and data-led analysis can really help us plan ahead on how to make virtual production work for everyone and the planet.
We're going to hit the ground running before the labs are open with reports on the international market for virtual production from Olsberg SPI, a deep focus on how to measure carbon impacts from Arup and Julie's Bicycle, and technology foresight from our Foresight board.
There's so much that we can do to make sure that Britain is still at the forefront in film and TV and interactive design and games.
So now that you've seen and met some of the labs, you've heard a policy point of view, the industry, the investor point of view. What does all this actually mean across the sector? To explore this, we're going to hear now from some experts across screen, performance, from creative technology, and across other areas of the sector. So I'll pass now to the ever-brilliant Sarah Ellis, Digital Director of Development at the Royal Shakespeare Company, to introduce our panel, and I will ask them to seamlessly move to the stage, please. So please welcome Sara, Sol and Sue.
It's all very intimate. We thought we'd have a snuggle. Oh, no, this is great. Yeah, it's lovely. We're just get cozy. Well, what a brilliant morning. What an inspirational morning. And what a huge success. It takes courage and a lot of trust to put something so ambitiously together and to make change. And to a healthy dose of optimism and pragmatism, I think, to navigate the true challenges of investing in a future and investing in a set of ideas and investing in a set of principles over a long period of time, and to make real change in established models and established ways of working. And we're in a profound moment in our society where we are in industry, in research, as people, as human beings, navigating huge change, which is driven by new technology, but also driven by a whole generation that is coming through and emerging from what Chris shared, those technological revolutions. And we have the privilege of being in those places now of industry. And what a time that is. What a time that is for us to see what we could do with that, and what a privilege it is to have the opportunity of CoStar to be able to be leading that. And I think that ambition and scale should not be underestimated. And actually, I think the panel here today and what we can talk about is, what do we want CoStar to be? What do we see the opportunities to be? And kind of like this starts now, right? This is now is a very present. So we are talking about the future, but we are doing this work now, and the heavy lift is now. And in that investment of ideas, we have these brilliant panelists here. Sue Lister from ILM, Sol Rogers from Magnapus, and Sara from Disguise. It's great to have you here because you've engaged in CoStar in different ways in the process so far. And I think what would be great to draw out in this moment is the huge congratulations to the successful candidates, but also what we saw in the process in all the applications and everyone that put in. There is a brilliant community out there and an ecology out there that is really expansive, and there are many, many companies encompassing the ideas of CoStar. So I'd love it if I could start with Sue to introduce yourself, the connection you've had with CoStar, and to sort of think about, from your perspective, what CoStar means and the impact on the sector for you. And you've got a bit of time there, so I'll
get thinking. Hello, I'm Sue Lister. I head up Industrial Light and Magic's London studio. You may or may not know that ILM, as we are known to our friends, is part of Lucasfilm. So I make a lot of Star Wars, all shapes and forms. But not only Star Wars, we contribute work for
nearly every big film studio and streamer. And I'm also proud to say that we made the content for ABBA Voyage, which is opening up a whole new area of work and creativity for us, which is hugely exciting. What was your question? CoStar. What does it mean?
What does it mean?
What does it mean?
What does it mean?
I don't know. I mean, if I'm honest, what's been great about listening to all the talks and everything this morning is, to a certain extent, going, oh, that's what it means. And I've done some partnership with Story Futures, so congratulations to James and the team at Royal Holloway and everybody in their success in the National Lab. And I think what I'm excited about is the connectivity, the national connectivity, the fact that each of the labs is focused on a different area. But there's going to be that cohesion and collaboration, which I think is going to be so important. I'm just excited that somebody's going to be constantly thinking about the future. That's as I was listening to some of the speakers, I was reflecting on, when we start a big project like ABBA Voyage, they're great projects because, you often sit there with the client who says, we want you to do this. And you go, yes, that's great. It's going to be wonderful. We can do that. And you shut the door. And this actually happened when we did ABBA. We all looked at each other and went, okay, can we do this? These projects take a long time. So if you're not actually scooping up some risk and somebody isn't looking to the future and with partnerships with SMEs and academia to go, okay, we can't do that now, but by the time we get there, we will be able to do that. If you're not careful, by the time you deliver it, it's already out of date. And so knowing that there are people nationally thinking about the future, what's next, where are we going, whilst we're kind of doing the present, is really important to me.
I think that interconnection is so important. How R&D talks with production and how you land an idea into a sort of cultural moment in society. Has to have lots of components and tested before that, right? Because it's those missed opportunities. You can't go back to the audience and go, oh, but we kind of wanted it to do this.
We wanted to do it like that, but we couldn't do it at the time.
But that's a huge opportunity in this space where the different places of risk occur in innovation and such like. Sol, I'm going to bring you into it a little bit because from an industry perspective, that's quite similar, isn't it, in terms of how you are at the bleeding edge, looking at those new models. Can you share a bit about your work and your practice, but also where you think CoStar has a really brilliant impact to have in terms of from your perspective?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Sol Rogers. I co-founded a company called Magnopus. We've got offices in London and Los Angeles, and we work at the intersection of creative and technology, like most people here, in different flavors. We've been, my co-founder in the US, Ben Grossman, who was an Oscar winner for his visual effects work, said that we're Hollywood's biggest secret. Whenever there's companies that are trying to make a new movie or a new format or a new type of content, we often get a phone call of how can we put this together. So we work with Jon Favreau to do The Lion King. We help the ILM Lab guys stand up the Mandalorian content. And then we work with Meta and Microsoft and Disney, which is always the next format of content. And for us, it's really exciting about this next is that it's about trying to get to audiences faster, trying to get to audiences where they are, and trying to give them content and experiences that enrich their lives. And I think for us, that's why I've been so excited about what CoStar is. It's actually an ability for us to make content for the next. We're very comfortable with watching movies. The next generation wants to be in movies. They want to be participant most of the time. And even as we talked about, Chris talked about earlier about the pervasiveness of social media, I think all that content is just the idea that they want to be active, they want to be engaged with it, they don't want to be lean back, they want to be lean forward. But what we have with CoStar is an ability to enable us to move faster than everybody else, to take some risks onto new formats. And the thing that I think, I mean, there's so many great things about it, is that this new type of content, whatever it turns out to be, has the ability to be distributed globally overnight. These new formats of broadcast, of distribution, of application, of commercialization, has to have some risks connected to it, because what do people want to see and connect with and play? Has to have a new way and a new set of labs to do that. And I think when I spoke to my US colleagues about what we have in the UK, which is so special, is that we get to fund these new formats of technology from the government who wants arts and humanities and to move forward. But in the US, it's always about three-letter agencies that are trying to work out how to kill each other. That's the only grant money they get. We get to do actually all the fun stuff, and then what's next?
That's brilliant. Thank you, Sol. And Sara, I'm going to bring you in again from a different lens and perspective here, and to share about your work, but also your connection with the CoStar labs, and also, to draw out, again, there's several opportunities emerging here, but particularly from your perspective.
Yeah, so, well, I'm the head of research program at Disguise, and Disguise is a company that thrives on innovation. We've grown massively in the last few years because we've been innovating, and as head of research program, my job lays especially there. And the most of the research we do is collaborative, and a lot of it is publicly funded. And last year at Beyond, I've heard for the first time about CoStar. And honestly, my first thought was, this is brilliant, I need to be part of this. And going back to my colleagues, the feeling was exactly the same. And I think the one single reason why CoStar will be brilliant is because it puts together not only the feeling and the projection about what the future can be, but many different perspectives of what the future should be. And it provides a long-term, solid infrastructure. It's not a research project. It's not getting together with a number of partners and developing something specific. It is a place, a number of places, interconnected places, where ideas about the futures get experimented on, researched, and delivered. And that will make a massive difference.
And I think it's that difference and change that we want in our industries, right? We want the research and evidence in order to be able to make confidence production choices and decisions with our clients or whoever. I'm going to pick up on a couple of things that you've all just touched upon, which is about convergence of form and convergent and audience-led innovation. Because also what we're seeing right now is audiences wanting something, and we're seeing something provided here and a space here to work out what that is. When you were talking about having a client to go, this is what I want, and then you being able to go back going, but what about this? There's something around the audience driving that too, isn't there? About there's this generation not sticking to the traditional forms of film, theatre, gaming in its siloed way, is it? They are converging. It is about experiences, it's about entertainment and the future of entertainment and how we find that. Have you got any thoughts around what you would want CoStar to think about in its research and development around that? Are there certain things where you go, this is really interesting in the industry and what I'm seeing in CoStar? It would be great if CoStar explored that.
Yeah, I think, so just to jump in, there's one of the things that I think is really exciting is that traditional media formats are often commissioned in traditional ways. They are going to be commissioned by a studio or a company to create a type of content, and it goes to the market, and that's how it's done. The new formats of content are far more, I hope, are far more akin to indie game production or application creation. You can make a small company, an SME, anywhere in the UK, could interface with any of the labs and create something which is far more entrepreneurial, which is more like standing up a business for either a single use point, this utility, what we've created is better for training or better for education, or fun to engage an audience wherever they are in the world. But the revenue generation is far more like a startup, far more like a business. And because it's globally distributed immediately, it can actually help the business of CoStar or future content overnight be different. And I hope that it gets to be something more like building startups, building new companies out of the things that come out of the labs.
And changing those pre-existing traditional commissioning models, right?
Yeah, challenging them.
Challenging.
We have those models already set in place. This should be the new.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be the same.
And so I'm going to tap into, because we spoke before the panel, which was lovely. Yeah. But again, ILM pushing the way around convergence of form, right? You are placing live performance in a film. Do you know what I mean? You are playing with those forms through the virtual production, through the technology as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the convergence of games technology, live performance, film technologies, I think bringing all of that together in film as part of live theatre as part of film now as part of music. I shared an anecdote with you, which my boss, famous filmmaker, she saw ABBA and said, oh, this is the future of filmmaking. And I think that is a foresight, which is, people don't just want to see, as you say, they want to be part of the experience. And to answer your question about, part of the research, I think there's such an interesting research to be done around sort of the psychology of audiences.
Got a bit of that.
And how audiences engage with content. What their role is actually in this new world of content consumption, and to a certain extent creation. That's something that really interests me.
Let's dig into that a bit more, because that feels a bit noodly to me, if you know what I mean. Because I think that one of the big shifts is the agency of the audience in the work that we do. Traditionally, you'd have a purveyor of taste, whether that was the commissioner, the artistic director. This is what the programme looks like. This is how we'll deliver it. Manufacturing line. We've got a new stakeholder here, right? Who's got things to say and participate. And that's a big thing, I think, around CoStar, isn't it? And Sara, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, if I look at the last few years, we've explored, and we're still exploring, the convergence of technologies. So we bring game engines into film productions and so on. And this is great. But the interesting part is where creativity asks a question to technology. I want to do something new. And technology today cannot deliver it. And that's where the interesting part of research is. Now, the creative agent is not anymore the commissioner or the director, is also the audience. And it's about where they want to watch the content, how they want to watch it, and what they have to add to it. So there is a new format, a new type of creative content that is going to be born, is going to be defined over the next few years. And CoStar is the place to do that, has all the right elements to explore that. We are probably going to see a world where creative content doesn't stop at delivery.
Oh, drill into that.
Well,
sorry, that was a good one. Seriously, keep going on that. Sol and Sue.
If we explore the idea that content can be adapted, so we start from branching narrative, something we have today, or even VOD, if you wish, something we all know. Then we look at personalization, and that personalizing content can be explored more and more and more with AI, or other technologies maybe. So what if is the creative process itself that doesn't stop when content is delivered to the audience?
I think, just to build on that, I think there's an interesting wave of synthetic media coming, just to build on the AI creation tools. There's us using tools to create things ourselves, better, faster, cheaper, which allows us to create different experiences which can be more niche. You don't have to make something for 100 million people. You can make something for 1 million people, for 100 people, and it can still be of a high quality. The blockbuster is always driven, we have to make this work for a huge audience globally. But there's this new director which knows me intrinsically, which is just the algorithm. the algorithm on YouTube or Netflix or anything else knows what I watch, when I watch, how long I want to watch it for, what I'm doing in my day, and could generate me on the fly this new type of content. It can make me a 23-minute movie because you happen to be going on a journey today. It's about, you know, fighter jets and homoerotica or whatever else it might be around.
Great.
Wow.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that, Sol. That's great. That'll be a research question if any network lab would like to pick that up.
And here's the film for you.
Huh?
Here's this short piece for you, which is a new piece of content specifically for you in whatever way you want it to be, which had no humans involved at all, other than trained on all the other content that's been created downstream. But these new types of content and new format are going to be incredibly disposable and throwaway, just the same as the social media content of today. How many things have you lost an hour or two flicking through and don't really remember what you watched? But I think it's the same thing with the content we see on Netflix. How many movies from last year did you watch that you recommended to somebody else? Do you even remember how many things we saw of an hour or 2 hours? There's a few stand out, and usually they're by real auteurs and traditional things, but this generated content, we're in a world of, we're in an attention economy. Everything is about taking our attention, using our attention, commercializing our attention, and CoStar is going to still add into that space a new type of content for us to engage with. And I think we all have a responsibility, and I know we are across the labs, to make sure that content is good, is meaningful, is valuable if we're going to take people's time away from them. They feel that they've been inspired or learned something new. And so I think, you know, it's never going to replace, it's just another thing to add into our world. And I think you are right, the next generation are digital natives. They do want to be participants. They do want to add to the content, the movie, or anything else. And it's far more like being in a theatre where it's not just a proscenium and we're just sitting back and watching everyone from the stage. It's more like the actors are around us and we're on the stage with them.
And I think a sort of provocation to the labs and the national and network labs is how do you include the audience in the research and development, right?
Yeah.
How are they a stakeholder in that aspect? And I think the data foresight unit does that to some extent. But also it's sort of like, where is that generation, if you know what I mean? How do we co-create with that generation now, and how do we look at that so there's a sort of iterative testing? That seems an opportunity. You segued brilliant, Sol. It's not like we rehearsed this or anything at all. But like, I wanted to sort of thematically look at this conversation around audience, but now move to actors, now move to artists, now move to the craft of that making, where you see it in research, craft, you know, you see in industry the importance of craft. And it's something like, when we look at innovation, sometimes the word craft isn't looked at through an innovation lens, actually, but in our industries, theatre, film, television, gaming, production, we have quiet innovators innovating every day, right, with the tools that they have available to them now. And they are, again, a massive stakeholder in CoStar, right? And they are experiencing huge shift in their industries around new technologies such as AI and such like. How does CoStar become a convening space for that, to look at that practitioner who has a huge amount of knowledge, but for example, you know, going back to our playwright in residence, our boss, Shakespeare, you know, a lot of the success points of those plays was the convergence of conversation and, you know, bringing people in who didn't have experience of theatre, but, you know, ship's rigging, for example. You know, there's different practices there. And I feel like craft in this context has a lot to contribute when we talk about technology, right? That connection, that there are people working with that technology and that alchemy. And again, when you look at in theatre, it's sort of like our conversations are like, how do you remove an elephant from the stage? Do you know what I mean? Those conversations are not, how do I put this algorithm? Like the language is different, right? It's like, oh my goodness, we've got this character and we need it to disappear, but it's on the middle of the stage and no one, do you know what I mean? We have to do it in a second. And you have those practitioners, we work with those people every day that make that happen. What do you think their connection point with something like CoStar is?
I think it's about posing the questions, isn't it? I think Sara said it. You know, it's it's about making those demands and asking the, our clients, and for me, my clients are creatives. I want to do this. How can I do this? And it's about, to a certain extent, I know it sounds anachronistic, but almost you want technology to be almost removing itself out of the way, which is, so much of the challenge that we have with our clients is that we present them with a hugely technocratic answer to their problems, and we're constantly trying to make that invisible, to get ourselves out of the way. And I think that it's understanding actually why, almost trying to bring it back to the craft and the creativity, which is you do you, and we're going to help you do you by making things less technocratic, easier, whilst actually in the background it's very technocratic and really quite complicated. I think it's making that interface easier.
And that interface needs language translation.
Exactly.
It needs to be comfortable by talking about things in quite a fluid way, and it also needs that very technocratic space. And I, again, sort of want to push CoStar in that sort of alchemy and convergence. This is a very collaborative cross-industry setup. And that feels to me that having the challenge of making an elephant disappear is actually a massive technological question, right? And that we need to think.
Well, the answer's quite technical, but the question is actually quite simple, which is I just want the elephant to disappear.
Yeah, which you could just go now, please.
Yeah.
Could it just leave?
Just to build on that, the craft, I think that we care more than we probably should about the craft. The humans that are involved, how we created it, how we've created it, the pipeline to this point. But the audience does not care at all.
They just want the elephant to go, right?
Yeah, they just want to feel something. They want to be in a story or be a participant or see something, be moved. They don't care how the pixels are made at all. We do, and we'll wax lyrical about, we use this technology, we did this more efficiently. That's really the business end of creating the experience. And we have to get to the other side, to the audiences, to build things that they want. And they want to see or hear or be connected with. And I think I always fall into the trap as well of going, oh, but look at this new way we did something. Yeah, but who cares?
And it's so interesting because we have clients who often come to us and say, the opening conversation is around the technology. And actually, increasingly, we're saying, what do you want to feel? What do you want your audience to feel? What experience do you want to create here? Let's start with experience and move back to there. Actually, kind of the technology is why you've come to us. That's our problem, and it's certainly not something that your audience is going to care about. Really, if they do, we'll make a making of about it. But actually, if the technology is too visible, then the craft is not working in some respects.
So I always say, technology, at whatever time we look at, 10 years ago, 10 years in time, is always a beautifully attractive toolbox. It's about how we use it and what we do with it. And evolving that toolbox is what innovation is like at the end.
Yeah. There's, I've said this a few times. So I've got twin boys. I tell everybody. Everyone already knows. I probably showed you all pictures of them. So they're 5. They've just started school. And they came home with this absolutely terrible, crappy drawing of crayons of a cat driving a train. And I thought, I'll put that on the wall with all the other crappy drawings you've drawn. And so I said, well, let me show you another tool. So I went to Midjourney, opened it up, and they can't type. They don't even know what letters are, or they can't spell. So I just did voice to text, and they said, Daddy, I want to see a train being driven by a cat in the snow. This beautiful, high-res CGI version of this cat with a top hat in the snow driving a steam train came out. And they think of it in the same way as they think about the crappy crayon drawing. They had an image of something they wanted to create. They have a new crayon. It just happens to have shortcutted 10,000 hours of craft and 3D and animation and CG and modeling and rendering and all the things that we consider as a necessity to get to a vision. They've already got the vision at 5. The difference being that I am shocked by this new technologies that we have in front of us, and I feel inspired, like, oh, it's changing everything. For them, it's just normal. Like, this is their reality. Like, oh, I have another tool for making.
But it's taking ideas to delivery.
So
and that's so democratizing and exciting.
You guys are such a gift as a panel. It's just brilliant because I'm like, and now we're going to talk about systems and infrastructure, and it's like they already are doing it. But you were right. It's like there are going to be big shifts through CoStar, collaborating with industry, with that research. There are going to be big potential shifts, aren't there, in terms of the infrastructure and systems in which we're working, which we're starting to see, but embedding that. Draw on upon that because it's sort of like real-time virtual production has made a big shift already, but there's an alchemy here around distribution, about access to technology, democratization of technology, and with film, for example, there's some big costs, aren't there, budget costs to a lot of traditional infrastructures. And some of this can make positive change?
Yeah, it can. And I think also a really important part of virtual production in filmmaking that's not to be underestimated, is the impact on the environment.
Yeah.
And it was great to see that that's going to be part, certainly, of one of the labs, those kind of considerations. I think one of the real challenges, certainly with the greater adoption of virtual production technologies, is actually, ripping it up and starting again, which is actually everybody, filmmakers actually understanding you don't make films like that anymore. You make them in a different way. The linear process is now different. And actually getting people comfortable with that. You must see similar in theatre, which is, we can still do that, but there's other options now. And I think, it's that classic thing of you don't take a new tool and try and fit it into your same process. You've actually got to embrace the tool by changing the process.
That's huge, right?
It's huge because it's once you do that, then actually people embrace the new way of working, and it can be hugely successful. It doesn't suit everything. There's still a lot to be said for traditional methods, but I think if we're really going to embrace virtual production as a form of filmmaking, we have to change the processes.
And potentially the stakeholders, the people involved in that, right? We're seeing different skills, different access to work. For example, it doesn't need to be in completely massive cities, or do you know what I mean? The low geography. There's lots of change there that's got huge potential, right?
The intersection for the convergence, there's always been convergence. It's always coming together closer to it. It's like the most boring thing is the unified asset pipeline. Like just rallying
Not
around.
for everyone, so someone's going to like that.
It's so good. Because we were always told you could get film assets to work in games and games assets to work in 2D. You couldn't. You could never unify. Now we're all rallying around some core technologies, Unreal Engine, Unity, real-time engines. Those assets can flow between a lean back piece of content and a lean forward. And I think this next wave is where we're seeing as business, we work across Meta, and we're producing VR content. We work with Epic on UFVN worlds. And that UFVN new broadcast platform, which is distributed real-time worlds where you get hundreds of people coming and playing a game, doing something, witnessing, going to a concert or anything in between, the content now we're getting is from the film studios, from the virtual production facilities. It's the same digital character or asset or actor or world. We're now just reshaping into something which was watched to something which is now played with a group of people. And then the next step is that those players are also building on top of the world and making their own stories and their own games within the same kind of framework that we're all kind of putting together.
And I'm going to bring you in, Sara, because it strikes me as industry, we have not talked together enough, have we? In terms of, we're talking about the file sharing, but actually there's a whole process and practice sharing that, we're still doing our own thing in our art forms and our industries and our silos, but you must be seeing Sol, that convergence piece.
Yes, in a certain way, yes. We see, the technology is used now for, can be a virtual production shoot and a live performance and then a game and then, And at the same time, you see also the delivery. You watch it on a big screen in the cinema, and then you watch it at home on your TV, and then on your laptop, and then you carry it with you on the tube, and you watch it on your phone. And so there is a convergence and a carrying over stories from cinemas to games and so on, and social media. And there is this carrying over of technology as well, which is obviously necessary for that to happen. But some of these technologies are very expensive and accessible to a lot of creative content producers. And that is something else that CoStar will do and will enable. By having an infrastructure that is open, will allow the experimentation and the sharing of ideas from a lot of different points of views, a lot of different creatives, so that we can really move forward with innovation, because it comes from all different aspects and different agents. And it will be a more comprehensive, well-organized and consistent way to move forward that is also democratized.
I wanted to go back. It's been a brilliant morning, actually, and Christopher said something that really resonated, which was the creative industries are at the heart of the national conversation. And I thought that was really, I think that contextualization for us now to walk away with that is a huge responsibility and a huge opportunity and a huge importance about how we keep the listening and the sharing and the demonstration, so that we don't turn this into a broadcasting of ideas, but actually what does holding a national conversation mean? And thinking about CoStar in that way, what do you think that the difference that CoStar can make in the world, and how do we hold that to account as a sector and a series of industries, as research? It's like, how do we say to our colleagues at the moment, whose work starts now, the network labs, the national lab, that work starts now, but within that there is a massive industry and community that applied, who are part of this, who want to be part of this, and we hold that national conversation. What difference can the national and the network labs make? What do we need to hold right now to ensure that we hold that national conversation and potentially global conversation in this? Big question, sorry about that.
The big thing is about access and accessibility across the country, across demographics, about LD&I. It's just about allowing us to all have access to this new format. And I think that's what CoStar is setting up. And it's also about the labs to make sure that the voices that are coming through represent all of us. And that is something we can all kind of hold on to as dear as we can, because that will shape what we are as a country, what we are as creativity, how we distribute our point of view around the world. But then also, how do we interface with everybody else around the world? I consider myself a global citizen. I just happen to be domiciled in the UK and pay taxes here, but I live digitally. I live digitally through Zoom and email, and sometimes as an avatar, and I work with colleagues all around the world. And I think that, especially through our times of COVID, I could have been anywhere. The little box I happened to be in didn't really matter where I was in the world, but I felt like I was collaborating with everybody around the world. We obviously have partners in Canada and the US and beyond, but how much further can we go beyond our borders? Who else is doing amazing stuff in the world? And also, how do we push outside of just the automatic westernized countries that we can align with, but go further to connect with anyone?
I think that if this is to really be part of the national conversation, and I think if we as a nation are to really benefit, part of it has to be about skills. And I know that that's a huge part of the remit. But I think it's also about multi-generational. What I'm always struck about when I talk to, I remember when I was searching for, I've got an older daughter, a daughter slightly older than yours, when I was looking at schools for her. And I, went round all the schools, and there was a poster on a wall. I think I've shared this story before. There's a poster on a wall saying, photography department, jobs you can do as a photographer. wedding photographer, fashion photographer, and I thought, really? This is all a bit 19th century. But when the next generation have little, or certainly not enough, in my opinion, understanding about our world, what jobs are available, what skills they need, how they get into it, and I want that to be a much broader conversation. And I think through the national spread of this, the involvement of SMEs and education, there's a huge opportunity to actually throw the doors open and say, this is an enormous industry in the UK and globally, but in the UK, we're really good at this stuff. And there's a huge array of roles, and it's an offset thing, but the jobs that will exist in these industries through the efforts of the CoStar Labs, probably, people don't even know what they are anymore. And we need to raise everybody's sights beyond traditional jobs, because AI and the convergence of AI and technology and creativity is going to create roles, really exciting, well-paid roles that don't even exist at the moment.
I see CoStar not as a set of labs for entertainment.
No.
I see it as the essence of what creativity is, which is problem solving. What is the problem? Make something beautiful, make something entertainment, make someone feel something, make someone learn something. Like, it's the essence, it's across all industries. And I hope that it just has that ability to ripple out into manufacturing and education and anywhere in between. Because the use case of these tech is far more than just games and films in the traditional sense.
Sara, have you got any thoughts?
Yes.
We've talked about, excellent.
We've talked about, craft.
Yeah.
And many decades ago, hundreds of years ago, putting, a play on would be a lot of physically demanding work and a lot of, engineering and manual creation of assets. And historically, it's become easier and easier and easier to generate content and distribute it, which means that, the tendency is to us to generally, as humans, not people from the creative industry, but release more and more content in the world, which is simple, not well crafted, and we don't really care. Now, as we look at the new generations, I would like for CoStar to be a place where we set the bar of quality really high, which means we open the opportunity to everybody to try, everybody to experiment and create. But the output, what we come out with, needs to be absolutely excellent. And because CoStar is an infrastructure that is already across the country, is already national, it has therefore the power and the force to deliver something exceptional at international level on behalf of the country. And that's, I think, we should do.
I think that's pretty amazing. I think it's just a moment to thank Sue, Sol, Sara.
The four S's.
Exactly. But also just to give a bit of a provocation, actually. Like, it is a huge privilege to thank those who have made this happen and created an opportunity, created a sense of ambition, of optimism, of scale and excellence. It is now about how we hold that, how we deliver that, how we work. I love working in theatre, I love working in these industries because no one person makes a piece of theatre. You cannot put it on one piece, one element. There are many elements that make this. This is part of a community. The people involved in making this happen in the labs, keep open minds, open your doors, keep fresh approaches, maintain that excellence. And now that baton is very much in a new phase and handed over. And now let's see what we can do with it, but also let's galvanize the ecology and the long-termness of what this is, because this is a step forward in an innovation. We stand on the shoulders of giants 400 years ago that were quietly innovating, and let's maintain that, let's keep that, let's look at the next 50 years, let's look at the next 100 years, because some of this won't be judged today, some of this will not be judged until much further into the future, but don't limit the possibilities and the importance of that. It's such an exciting day. It's such a brilliant start in a world which is full of change. A piece of optimism and ambition, I think, is a beautiful thing. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, amazing. Thank you very much, Sara, Sol, and Sue. I was so engrossed in that I almost forgot I've got a job to do because we're not quite finished, but we're nearly there. As Sara was wrapping up, she talked about live performance and live shows and theatre. And so we have another lab to show you. So we're gonna show you now the CoStar Live Lab, and then we're gonna pass to Sir Peter Bazalgette to have nearly the last word before we wrap up.